through my recording and we're going to get started. Okay, so Shannon, welcome. If you click on the chat, you will see that it says Nearpod. Click on there, put your name on there, and you can join us. So when I'm on Nearpod, you're going to notice that it will move along with you. And I want to say welcome to Literacy Practices Using Technology for K-5. So watch while I move it. When I move it, it should move on your screen as well. My name is Mila Lee. I am your host and facilitator for a very short 45 minutes together. And I really do have a lot of information to share with you, but I don't want you to worry because I'm keeping track of all the different apps and tech tools that I'm sharing, because what we have is we'll have an opportunity. I will have a place to share all this good information with you as well. Okay. I want to welcome whoever's joining us right now. Please always look in the chat, because I'm going to be sharing some great information to have you join us on Nearpod. Okay. So everyone should be on Nearpod now. And as you can see, as I'm moving forward, I want to share that I'm part of Advanced Learning Partnerships. We actually partner up, this professional learning partners up with Dell. And we've been in partnership with Dell for a while, and we provide the professional learning through Dell. And this is part of the Dell Texas Learning Network. And I'm really happy to be here. Now, ALP, or Advanced Learning Partnerships, they have 4 pillars really that they put all their professional learning standing on. That we perpetuate trust and we value people. And we see this as an opportunity of great learning, and we want to serve with I'm very grateful that you're here spending, after a long day, probably teaching or working with students, being here with me. So if you have any trouble, those who just joined us, with getting a Nearpod, just let me know. But again, the link is right in the chat for you to join us. If you're not familiar, it's just a great way to interact. Now, again, if you want to keep track, if you're on Twitter, a great way to connect is with the hashtags Dell, TLN, and ALP Learn, and @ALP. Those are great ones to actually follow, because it shows you different opportunities of learning that are happening nationally. So as you can see, I'm already recording. This is an intent to record our time together for other folks who might want to have an opportunity to learn what we're learning today. I'm going to actually stretch out this a little bit more so I can see it a little bit better. So again, use chat to Zoom, but really where I really want you to be right now is on Nearpod. It is an opportunity for you to engage. And some of you, like I said, I'd love to see you, but I also know it's been a long day. You can mute the mic, but if you find that I'm not responding right away on chat, feel free to unmute. And if you want to send me a private message, please do so. So here's a just quick thing for our community agreements. I want you to take a moment and read through that. The biggest thing I want you to think about is engage fully and take risks. But also I want you to take care of yourself. This is a very different time period for us as educators. So I really want teachers to take that moment to remember to take care of yourself and be well as we go through this and enjoy this learning opportunity. So today's tool really is Nearpod, but I also want you to have your handy dandy journal with you. So if you want to take notes, you can. Now, our session outcomes, take a moment and read through that. As you can see, my third point is to make you curious. I really want you to, you're going to be introduced to a lot of different tech tools, and hopefully I can squeeze them all in within our 45 minutes. But if it makes you curious to want to learn something new, I want you to really take advantage of that. So literacy, we're talking about our literacy foundational skills, okay? The foundational skills of literacy are basically reading, writing, listening, and speaking, okay? To even talk about literacy, my background is a master's in in literacy, and I've done a lot of literacy work, and it's taken a lot of time. So really what I'm going to be addressing is just the tip of the iceberg when we go through this. And we also know that we have to have a balanced literacy program, in terms of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. How can we definitely leverage the fact, especially from our K2 perspective, what that might mean? I want you to take a moment and just really think about that. If you can unmute for a moment, I'd like you to introduce yourself really quick and just tell us your grade level and your role in what you're doing. So Letitia, Yvonne, Shannon, and Natalie, feel free to just introduce yourself. If you want to, you can also put that in chat.
My name is Shannon Copeland, and I am the district testing coordinator for my district. And I'm also help quite a bit with technology. And I'm wanting to see, I know this program's going to be done again in the fall, and I really want to see what it's all about in order for to get our teachers signed up and involved with it.
Thanks, Shannon. Thank you for being curious and being here. And Yvonne, welcome. You are the instructional technology coach for your district as well. Letitia?
Yes, I'm a first grade teacher.
Yay!
Yeah.
I was a first grade teacher. I've been in education for over 30 years. And so two of my years have been in first grade. Anyone that teaches K2, as far as I'm concerned, walks on water, because they are definitely teaching those foundational skills. Welcome, Natalie.
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself? Oh, there you are. You introduced yourself in the chat. You're an instructional technology coach. Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm glad. So both you and Yvonne will have a chance to talk about some of the tech tools that you have here. And I've done this course before, and it's been a little bit longer, but 45 minutes is enough that we can talk about a lot of different things. Again, as we think about elements of balanced literacy, there's a lot to consider from a K-5 perspective, especially from K2, where they're learning really the beginning parts of the foundational pieces, to 3-5, where we're increasingly using those skills to improve our ability to read as well through comprehension. So when I think about literacy and technology, I really think of it as a nice pairing, because literacy in itself, I mean, if you could curl up with a good book like I like to do, that's engaging, but you add technology into it, it adds another level of engagement. And it also creates a nice way for students to have deeper understanding about the content. What I like about technology paired with literacy and used appropriately is the fact that it does address the critical thinking skills of collaboration and communication. And I didn't include creativity, but when we talk about writing and speaking and listening, allows for that expression for creativity. And another piece, and I'm sure the technology coaches and technology experts here can attest, is when you pair literacy up as well, there's such a thing of thinking about digital literacy as well, and what that means for our students. So what you're going to have here is you're going to have a whole compilation, a curation of a lot of different tech tools. And I want you to always think through the lens of how is that creating a connection between these 6 things that you see on your screen, as well as thinking about the balanced literacy piece. Okay. So now we're going to talk about reading. Okay, so I like this quote by Margaret Fuller: "Today a reader, tomorrow a leader." Because when we engage our students in reading and we give them that capacity, we're also allowing some inclusiveness and allowing, they've said that with reading, a measure of how successful a student is later is how they are as readers early on. So when we think about reading development, we see phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary development, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. These build on each other. So eventually what our end goal is that our students can make meaning of things that they read. And so it's a way for them to comprehend and to make sense, not only of what they're reading, but to be critical about whether or not, critical thinkers, whether or not what they're reading is truth. because we know there's a lot of fake news out there right now. And so many times our students are not thinking critically through that. So I wanted to share with you, and how many of you are familiar with Padlet? You know, you can show me with your reaction if you're familiar with that. Okay, so Yvonne, you're familiar, and Natalie as well, and Shannon, wonderful. Padlet is a great tool. It's a lot of the tools, I would say all the tools that I'm sharing are free. Now, some may have some limitations because there's always like that price point where it's free for a certain amount. And then after that, after you go past that, you have to pay a certain amount. The free version of Padlet allows you to have 3 boards. When I was in the classroom, I actually retired in January 2020. It was very, it was before the pandemic. I only used the free version, but because I would just redo the boards. Shannon, do you have a question?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I was excited because that meant you were really engaged. So I want to talk about Padlet because it's a great way to do some thinking routines, some protocols that you could find, some text protocols. So one thinking routine that's out there is the See, Think, Wonder. And so many times when we look at, when we have books, we might do a picture, look at the cover and make predictions. So what's great about this is that you can break down and scaffold some of those thinking routines as well as protocols and put it on technology. So this is an example of the mitten. And if you can see, there is the cover of the book right there. And then it brings it down and students can actually post right on there. And what's nice about Padlet, and I'm going to share this a little bit later, is that Padlet allows you, so for some of your non-reader or non-writers, they can actually record their voice, their answers. For our kindergarten students, they might want to draw a picture. It allows them to draw, and it also allows them to do a video of themselves. So it gives options. Now, another tool that's great for this is Jamboard. And some of you may be familiar with a Chalk Talk or a Brainstorm, but Jamboard is a great way for our students to really think about, to get their ideas out there. Now, if you notice this one example, they actually even use colors to you can use the colors, you can have kids assigned or groups assigned, or the types of questions that they might have. So this is a Norman Rockwell photo. It's and it's a good one because this was a precursor to another book to help that. And so I'm going to keep moving for that, but this is something that this Jamboard only allows 20 boards. I learned that the hard way when I was doing professional learning, and I was on board 19 and I was ready to make more boards, and it only allows 20 boards. The advantage with Jamboard, it's free. So think about this. It allows some critical thinking here because it allows some kids to use description. It allows for multiple perspectives and allows students to communicate and get their ideas across. Now, I don't know, I'm still on Nearpod, and you'll definitely, if you're not on Nearpod, you want to make sure you're on there because this is where I'm going to have some opportunities for it to be interactive. I don't know if you're familiar with Wonderopolis. It is a great site for informational reading, but it also has audio text. So for your non-readers, and if you want them to focus on those listening skills, you can press a little microphone and it will read the text for them. And what's also nice about that is there's a video component, and they're not long texts, but it also allows for that sense of curiosity and questioning. And when we bring questions into play, it allows for some critical thinking in trying to find those answers. So as I move on in Nearpod, it gives you an opportunity to actually click on there and explore. So I'm going to give you around 30 seconds to explore Wonderopolis. So hopefully you are on Nearpod with us. And all you need to do is click on the little blue bar right there, and it will open up a new tab and take you to Wonderopolis. So take a moment and explore. How many of you are familiar with Wonderopolis? Have you actually ever seen that site before? If you have, could you react by giving me a thumbs up? Or putting it in the chat if you've done it. And as you explore Wonderopolis, maybe if you find an aha or think about something of how you can use that, you can unmute or put it on the chat as well. The one thing that's really nice, yes, absolutely, Yvonne, it goes well with Flipgrid. And one thing that's really nice with Wonderopolis is that if you cannot find the wonder, the question that you have, your students can actually submit a question. And I've had a couple of students who've submitted a question and actually had it answered. So think about how this could be used in reading. You know, one way of engaging students is letting them be curious and wonder. So now you have a whole site dedicated to wonders. Now, some of you may be familiar with level text, because we know, one thing I find that sometimes teachers are looking for text level text, and Epic is great because for teachers, it's absolutely free, and it allows for thousands of books and stories to be read and or to be accessible, and they're leveled. Now, Tween Tribune, they have a Tween Tribune Junior that's great for your lower readers and then your higher readers. When I talk about sites like Tween Tribune, Newsalia, and Common Lit, their text, what's nice about it is that you can have the same article and it will, based on the different levels, you can change the Lexile levels, like the complexity of the word, the vocabulary, but it looks the same. And in a way that's allowing students to feel not like they're being excluded because they're not where they need to be with their reading. It's meeting them where they're at. And we know when we teach students and have students read at an instructional or independent level, it allows for growth. They get better in their fluency and comprehension in reading. They're not spending a lot of time trying to decode the words, because when you give students texts that are too difficult for them, a frustration level, what ends up happening is that they're spending more of their energy, their cognitive energy, trying to decode what they're reading rather than comprehending it. And I want to talk about accessibility, because sometimes you might have text that isn't leveled, but you want your students to be able to experience it, listen to it, and use some of those other foundational skills to build on their comprehension. One of the things that I use a lot and other people have used is Immersive Reader. Now, Immersive Reader is a Microsoft tool that you can use, but there's also an unofficial Chrome extension as well. And there's other versions of text to voice apps out there, but this is one example that you can use where it will actually, if you add the extension, it will read the website to you. Another great tool is Print Friendly. Now, I use this with my professional learning, but what's nice about this is for some of our students that might need bigger text or text without distraction, you can take something, a blog post, especially for our upper grades, a blog post or something on the web, and actually put it in there, and it creates a very clean version. One of my favorites is VideoLink. And I don't know if some of you are familiar with this. VideoLink is a great tool to use because you can take a YouTube video, take the URL, put it in there, and it creates another link that takes away all the other stuff, the distractions. And that's great for our students because you know what, we really, in terms of digital citizenship, we really don't want them to be exploring other areas that maybe might not be appropriate for them. So I'm going to give you a chance, 30 seconds, to play around with Print Friendly. So if you click on the little blue button on the bottom, and what I want you to do is find a web page, take the URL, put it put it right in there and watch what happens. So if I take a post from, let's say if I take, let's see, this right here, I copy this and I put it in Print Friendly and I preview it. Look what happens. It's generating a PDF or something that I can print. And if I don't want, I can change how big the pictures are. I can change the size of the text. I can take any other things that if I don't want them to see that, click it and it goes away. Okay. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So I'm back on Nearpod now, and I'm going to keep moving on. So let's talk about writing. I want to take 10 seconds right now because we've been kind of, you've been kind of silent. I want you to go on chat, and on chat, I want you to tell me one of the things that you really think you're going to use from the reading portion. What's one tool that you think, oh, I think I might use that. Now, if you don't want to use the chat, if you want to unmute, we're a cozy group. Feel free to unmute and tell me maybe one of the tools that I share that you think, oh, that one makes me curious. Letitia, the Jamboard, wonderful. Anyone else? Well, I'm curious to see if there are any other tools that you find curious. Feel free to unmute though. Yvonne, were you going to say something? I noticed that you were unmuted for a little bit.
Yes, sorry. I think I want to research a little bit more about Wonderopolis.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
something that I hadn't seen, so that's something I'm excited to go over.
That's fantastic. You're kind of wondering about Wonderopolis. Love that. And Letitia, you're curious about Nearpod. Yes, I like modeling some of the things that, and Nearpod is a great way in terms of instruction and allowing students, there's a self-paced version of it. Okay, thank you for engaging because that was one of our community agreements. So I'm going to keep moving forward. And so another part as we think about writing, what opportunities can we give our students to express themselves through writing? One of the first examples I want to give you is especially for our primary K2, there is My Storybook. Okay, my first storybook. It's called actually My Storybook, and it's a really interesting. It's very simplistic. It's enough that it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's simplistic enough for students to be able to express themselves. The other one is Book Creator, and that's more well known, but it has a little bit more of the bells and whistles. It doesn't mean that K2 can't do that, but it has a little more of sophisticated pieces to it. So if I look at this, I'm going to give you an opportunity in Nearpod right now to click on that and to sort of explore. So I'm going to give you your 20-second exploration time. And let me know in chat or unmute some of the things that's making you curious about this. So you might notice it's very simple, but it's free for teachers. And like I said, I really like it when students can, when teachers can have things access that are free. So the next thing I'm going to share is a blog post actually that is provided by Matt Miller. Sometimes there's a lot of, there's different blog websites and blog platforms that you can use. But I sometimes like to start it simple because then the students can actually focus on the content of writing. Now, one example with this is blogging with Google Slides. And he actually, Matt Miller wrote a very nice blog post regarding how to use Google Slides to write blog posts, but then allowing students to comment on it. So it's another way of using a tech tool such as Google Slides that maybe some of you are familiar with to have students express themselves in writing. Again, I want you to be curious. Click on the blue bar on the bottom and it'll send you to a to a blog post by Matt Miller. How many of you are familiar, Letitia, Yvonne, and Natalie, are you familiar with Matt Miller's work in Ditch That Textbook? Natalie, Yvonne, absolutely. And Letitia, if you're not, feel free to explore him. And one of the things, like I said, that I like about Matt Miller is that he uses tools that we're already using it, but he's looking at it in a different way. And that's kind of neat to be able to do that, because then it allows students, sometimes we introduce so many tech tools that they get caught up on the tool rather than the content. So I try to come up with as many uses of the same tech tool as possible. Now, sometimes when you're writing a story, students need, especially your students that are who are more engaged with the visual parts, seeing pictures, storyboarding and creating comics. Pixton is a great source for that. I don't know, Yvonne and Natalie and Letitia, are you familiar with Pixton at all? Pixton is a great, some people have seen it since the pandemic came around, where they're making little cartoon figures of their class composite, as you can see on the left-hand side. Yep, Natalie, it's a great one to use for storyboarding and allowing students to be able to express themselves. And there's so much that's come out with graphic novels that folks don't realize that there's a lot of critical thinking involved with inferencing, not only with reading graphic novels and comics, but also creating them, because you are the actual gutters, which are the bars in between each frame. It creates an inferencing. You have to actually inference to go from one frame to the next. And that's really higher level thinking. And some folks will say, oh, it's just a comic book or it's a graphic novel. But there's a lot to be said about the inferencing and critical skills that happen. And what I like about that is I've done some studies on boys as readers and writers. For some of our boy readers, a lot of it is not being illiterate, it's being illiterate, choosing not to read or write. And this is sometimes a nice engaging way for our students that choose not to read or write to become invested in it. Now, something that comes up a lot is that how can I keep other students busy when I want to do small group instruction with my small group readers and my small group writers? So I can definitely differentiate, especially in elementary. One way is by creating choice boards and allowing students to have content choices within that. And so it's almost like having stations, but giving them the voice and choice to make the decisions of which activity or which lesson they want to do. And the other piece that, before I go on, I want to point out that you're going to have a copy of this. And if you've never used Google Slides, again, this is another way of using choice board Google Slides for another activity. And what I like about this is that it allows, when you have small groups, you can allow for remediation in terms of those instructional skills that you have for your readers and writers. And then our good old Google Forms and Google Docs and apps. I like using them and these are again, you can toggle between reading and writing within this, because you can use an exit ticket to identify important information or to take a formative assessment on where your students are in terms of their reading. and also their writing. And I love the fact that so many times our students using the comment feature to give feedback in the writing process. You know, again, so many times we have schools that are Google districts or they have Google apps, but really they're meant to be collaborative, and part of the higher level thinking skills in terms of reading and writing is that collaborative piece. So now we're going to be talking about listening. Before I move into listening, I'm going to have you go back. You can unmute, we're a cozy group, or you can put it into chat and you can share maybe one of the tools that you might use from our writing piece. Maybe you've used it before, but you've never seen it used that way. Or you might say, you know what? I've used it, but heck, I want to use it again. So I'm going to give you a moment. Again, you can unmute or you can actually put it in the chat. Letitia, Yvonne, and Natalie. Which tools from writing would you want to makes you curious? The storybook one for the lower grades, Letitia, all of them. The storyboard activity. So you did, so Natalie, you used Pixent for the storyboard, or do you storyboard? That is what we use. Okay, awesome. So maybe you can try Pixton. What's nice about Pixton is that if they have a character, they can change and dress them up a little bit different or give them personality. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing, all three of you. So now we're going into listening. I like this quote by Thomas Edison: "We have but 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." And so I wanted to share this has become very popular since the pandemic, the Storyline Online. It's a collection of really good, inclusive books, a lot of narratives read by famous actors and actresses. And what I like about this, and why I put it in the category of listening, is the fact that these are actors and actresses who've been trained in terms of their expression and fluency. And sometimes our students don't have that ability or that opportunity to hear stories that are spoken with expression, you know. And so this is a way for them to hear that, because in fluency, when it is expressed appropriately, it builds comprehension. Okay. Oh, so Letitia, you use that at school. Okay, wonderful. So this is a great one. It's also a good one for parents to use as well. And I always encourage not to that be a replacement for a parent reading it, but for sometimes some of our parents need models themselves of how to read a story. And so we want to make sure that they have that opportunity to hear that as well. Now, podcasts are my favorite. I have plenty that I follow already on my own phone, but they have some available for students. Like Little Stories for Tiny People is a podcast that are the original stories, narratives, and they're written specifically with expression for kids, for especially K2. Now, but why is another great one. These are questions like Wonderopolis that were sent in, but students are actually answering them. A lot of science-based types of things as well. And it's a podcast that deals with that. Now, if you want to talk about fake news and real news, The Big Fib is a great podcast for that, because it actually introduces genuine fact and also non-fact, a lie, a fib. And it's almost this very entertaining game show type of thing. And so students, the listener has to determine which one's fake and which one's real. So trying to build those listening skills, you know, some of these are just like even 5 or 10 minutes. It's probably a nice calming thing too, after a busy like lunch or recess to have students read or listen to different podcasts, or maybe a listening center, followed up with some questions. Now, again, I wanted to share, there's a PDF viewer of this, and this is an actual link to the New York Times a big list of podcasts for little kids. Again, if you click on the little blue line, it will actually take you, open up another tab of where you can find that. Okay. So we've left listening and now we're going to speaking. You know the drill. So what is one tool that you think you're going to be using for that makes you curious in terms of listening? You can unmute or you can put it into the chat. Yvonne said, Storyline Online with a big old exclamation point. And Natalie, the big fib. You'll find that entertaining. It's nice to subscribe to that. Letitia, is there anything else that you might want to use from the listening piece? Well, hopefully you'll be able to choose one of them. And I know, oh, you said storybook. So you're already using the Storyline Online. So you're using that already. That's wonderful. So I wanted to point that out because of so many times we forget with the listening that our students, many of this generation our elementary kids have not developed those listening skills. They are consumers of a lot of things online, and there's a lot of distractions with different digital messages here and there. But to be active listeners and comprehend from that, that's a skill that a lot of our students, even a lot of our adults, can work on as well. So last but never least, speaking. A good speech is like a pencil. It has to have a point. So when we think about speaking, this was mentioned before, Flipgrid. I like these two examples, this YouTube channel by the Two Sassy Apples, because they actually give Flipgrid examples of how to use Flipgrid in reading as well as in math. And Flipgrid is a great way, if you haven't used it, is for the students to work on that fluency by talking, almost holding up a device and recording themselves. And so they can see their expression as they're speaking. And sometimes we might have them do an audio piece, but for our students, sometimes seeing how they're expressing their facial expressions as they're talking to get their point across is a big deal. Now, Screencastify is another part that another app, Chrome extension you can use to record. Now, the thing is, the free version only allows 5 minutes, but 5 minutes for students to explain, a idea that they had from a story, or to share how they wrote a poem, or even to talk about their ideas, is a great way to do this. And it's teaching them how to focus on the process, not only on the product. Now, I'm looking at time, but I'm going to make this. So if you're on Nearpod, if you want to click on the 5 reasons to pilot student podcast, I'm going to give you some time to watch that quick video. So you should be able to play it from your Nearpod screen. So I want you to take a moment to do that. It's not a very long video at all. Okay. And when you're done, just give a little thumbs up on your reaction. Is everyone able to play theirs, I hope? Thank you, Natalie. Just let me know when it's done. Thank you, Yvonne. So I'm going to move forward for time's sake. Hopefully you'll have access to that as well. And so the other piece, if we're doing a podcast, is Anchor. Anchor is a great tool to use that. Now it says students need to be 13 years and up, but I've seen classrooms actually do it as a class. And then the other piece, Letitia, this is really interesting. I think you'll like this. It's called ChatterPix. You take a picture, you draw a line. And what's nice about that is that the student can talk through the picture. So it looks like the picture is actually doing the talking. And last but not least, Letitia, I want to share with you choices in terms of Padlet. Padlet, like I said, has all these choices if you click on the 3 little buttons. Now, this is a gift to you, and unfortunately our friends that had to leave before then. This is the Padlet board. And I wanted to share this with you because here it has all the information that I just shared. So I'm putting it in the chat just for you. Okay. So make sure you click on that, Letitia.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have an attendance. This is the attendance piece. So I'd like you to complete this. You can do it right on Nearpod. Are you able to do it right on Nearpod, Letitia?
No, I'm not familiar to Nearpod.
Oh, okay. So are you on Nearpod? Okay. So I'm going to,
Yeah, I'm on Nearpod. I am.
okay. Okay. If you want to, that is the attendance. This is the only way you're going to get a certificate for being in here. Okay. So here it is. I'm going to put it on the, you can do it on Nearpod, or I've also put it in chat. Okay.
Oh, yeah, on this one. Yeah, I will do this one. The
Okay.
Google form.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Letitia, I'm going to put one more link in there, and that's a survey. And if you don't mind filling out that survey, that would be awesome.
Okay, let me see which one is the.
So the attendance is, it says, please, you'll see that. Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, the attendance is the one you told me, right?
Yeah, there's the attendance.
The form and the one you sent me the information, the latest in technology toolkit.
Yep.
That's a website, right?
Pardon?
That is a website.
Yes. And then you have 2 things now. You have the attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you click that. That's a Google form. And then there's a session survey, and then we're done.
And this is a webinar, right?
Yeah, it's our quick little webinar.
Okay.
Hopefully you found the information useful, Letitia.
Oh yeah, I did. I didn't know about wandering and more. Yeah, definitely the storybook. That's really useful for first graders.
Absolutely.
They need visuals.
And did you get, and you're able to get the Padlet board, right? With all the information on there?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure because that's not available anywhere else. And so that's why I wanted to make sure you had it.
Okay, just want to, okay. The name is Literacy Practice Technology.
Yes.
Literacy Practice using technology. Very useful information. So
I'm glad, Letitia. And again, my name is Mila Lee. I'm your facilitator. And that's it for our time. I got it all in 45 minutes, Letitia.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, almost finished. Just gonna do this. The webinar. Okay, so you will send me the certificate?
Yes. because when you fill out the attendance, that's when you get the certificate.
Okay. Alrighty, I already sent the attendance.
And did you
Now
complete
the
the survey?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay. Well, we can go now. You have a great rest of the week, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
you.